Solo 2. Will it ever happen? Probably not, but let's quickly recap why that is. Before we do that, please make sure that you like, share and subscribe to the Young Cynics. Your support will be so great for this small channel. So in 2015, it was announced that one of the Star Wars spin-offs in development would be a Han Solo origin film. And almost instantly, people were cautious about the project. However, a lot of those were soon put to rest when they hired hotshot directing duo Phil Lord and Chris Miller to helm the project. But then the troubles started. When shooting started in 2017, they were 6 months in when creative differences were cited between Lord and Miller and producer Kathleen Kennedy and writer Lawrence Kasdan, due to the film being more of a straight-up meta-style comedy, much like their 21 Jump Street films. This was before, obviously, Lucasfilm fired the two and replaced them with Ron Howard, and we saw how that turned out.
Mimi, you were right. Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse. Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Bob Cusciacetti, Peter Ramsey, Rodney Rothman,
Phil Lord, and Christopher Miller.
So now you get to the release. 6 months earlier, The Last Jedi was released to the most polarizing reception in cinema history, and the fan base was split in half. You either loved Disney and what they were doing, or Kathleen Kennedy and Rian Johnson had just lowered the franchise into a fiery hell pit. That's an actual quote. I mean, grow up. But interest for a film was at an extreme low. There was reports that Alden Ehrenreich and Emilia Clarke needed acting coaches, and Harrison Ford made his interest in the film quite clear as well.
Are you looking forward to watching a Han Solo movie as a fan?
Not really.
And then the film was released. So whereas the two previous saga films had made over $200 million in their first weekend, and Rogue One had made $155 million, Solo made a measly $83 million in its first weekend. And then after all three movies had cracked the billion mark worldwide, Solo only made $392 million, and was the signal that Star Wars was not invincible, and was soon going to be going downhill. And fast too. But look, while critics and audience took a giant meh on Solo, I thought the film was actually good. It's very good. It kind of manages to capture that spirit of what Star Wars is to me. The exploration of the underworld is fantastic. I think Alden Ehrenreich adds an interesting layer to the character of Han. His relationship with QI'RA is a really strong tie and explanation for his future personality. I love the bromance between Han and Chewie. Donald Glover is great as Lando. The Kessel Run is one of my favorite action scenes in the saga, and John Powell's soundtrack is absolutely awesome. However, the film does of course feel like a checklist of here's Corellia, here's Han's blaster, here's Lando, here's Chewie, here's the Falcon, here's the Kessel Run, and not to mention the utterly pointless inclusion of Darth Maul. But I think ultimately on a film spectrum, I reckon it's a moderate success. And I was interested to see where it would go until... So now Star Wars is taking a big screen hiatus, and while The Mandalorian and Jedi Fallen Order are keeping the brand image up, truth is that audiences simply aren't going to be interested in seeing Star Wars for a few years, and they definitely won't care about seeing a follow-up to Solo. However, maybe they'll be interested in something like this. Go check out my Star Wars fanfiction trilogy. I just released part 2, and I hope you enjoy it. But now there's been buzz about a Lando TV show, although that is just rumors at this point. So today we're going to go through what to do in Solo 2, and create a story since we probably won't get to see this continued on the big screen. So today, in my usual fashion, I'm going to go through steps for Solo 2, mainly the treatment of its characters, before crafting a story for Han Solo's second adventure. Characters. Han Solo. So one of the big complaints about Solo is that by the end of the film, Han had gone through a very similar arc to that of A New Hope, where he'd learned to care for causes and basically helped the rebellion. When really it should have been him trying to help them, however things going wrong causing him to become more jaded. Now, we've already seen one team of his get wiped out, so I'm not going to do that either. I think the main point of emphasis here is to show the greed really coming into play here. Show Han becoming successful at this point as he learns the ins and outs of the smuggler's trade. His soul is becoming slightly corrupted. Now he doesn't have a problem with killing people after what he did to Beckett, or playing others for fools. We need to show Han being the smartest guy in the room at all times, and when that wit is sometimes misplaced, who else to get him out of the situation but Chewie. So I think a lot of people came to the consensus that one of the strongest elements of Solo was Han and Chewie's bromance. It was just a full-on love story between a man and his humanoid dog Bigfoot thing, but scenes like the shower scene or their first meeting were some of the best scenes in the film. In a sequel, I really wouldn't change much at all between these two. Continue with the cute little moments mixed with the sparks of naked aggression and sometimes bickering during action scenes, because Alden Ehrenreich, in my humble opinion, was actually able to play off Chewie better than I feel Harrison Ford was. I loved how Harrison Ford's attitude was always a little sarcastic towards him. And that is definitely how Ehrenreich played it at first, but then really grew to care for his only true friend. It feels like a relationship beyond Han just wanting to keep him around because he's intimidating, which is what it kind of felt like with Harrison Ford. But really, I would have this duo be a strong smuggling team uprising and very easily gaining the attention of one, JABBA the HUTT. So yeah, he has to be here. I do respect Solo for not going completely over the top with the fan service, well, almost, but I feel like there are a couple of characters which they've definitely earned, and of course JABBA is number one. What I want to explore in this would be JABBA's growing fondness of Han. At first, of course, not taking him seriously, treating him as merely a small child. However, when giving him a mission which would appear impossible, he underestimates Han, Chewie and the Falcon's ability, which instantly gains the trust and admiration of JABBA as he takes Han under his wing. However, this would lead to a rivalry amongst JABBA's other clients, which would lead us to Boba Fett. Now, here's where I have to be very careful, because if I just include Boba Fett in as a pointless Wile E. Coyote adversary in the ridiculously campy way Dark Empire did, I'm in a lot of trouble.
So yeah, so after Boba Fett. So they leave and guess who shows up?
I refuse to guess.
Boba Fett has been circling the gas cloud for days, scanning for the Falcon, so they have another game of chicken. But that new thing on the front of the Falcon is a lightning gun, so they shoot it at Boba Fett. So that causes him to go spiraling out of control again, just flying into the gas cloud in a cartoonish spiral. Literally the same thing. He just vanishes again. So and Han's just like, I'm gonna miss him.
However, the two should become acquainted toward the middle of the film as Han begins to rise up in the smuggler's rank. Fett will of course be introduced as one of Jabba's top bounty hunters and they will be paired up on a mission. My goal here is to give Boba Fett a greater character and give him some more presence. And to do this, I'm going to make the third act be something that actually challenges Boba on more of a personal level, because let's be honest, while being a cool looking character, Boba Fett is not a great character. Greedo won't have much to do, basically just to be Jabba's footman. I'm not even going to include him by name in the story, because including him in a greater role could be just a step too far. Lando. Now, despite being one of the best parts of the first film, unfortunately Lando will not be returning into the film simply due to the fact that pretty much everything we needed to see happen between him and Han has already happened. Like, take a look at everything that happened in Solo, and everything that goes on in Empire. For all of it to make sense, there really can't be a lot more growth in their relationship. However, then that problem arises when they're all buddy-buddy in Return of the Jedi, when Lando very easily betrayed him. But that's beside the point. He does not need to be here. QI'RA. QI'RA's an interesting one here. Now, of course, at the end of Solo, she took Dryden's spot as one of the leaders of Crimson Dawn, and MAUL warned her that they'd be working more closely. Now, to me, an important part of creating that full arc for Han will be QI'RA and his attachment to her. I know people don't like seeing him with another woman because he already has one of the greatest romances in cinema. However, it is crucial to show the full breakdown of one relationship leading to another in LEIA. So here I'm going to have Crimson Dawn be a player in the story, and Han's love for QI'RA being that one thread of innocence he still has, before it gets obliterated to fully transform into the Han we know at the start of episode 4. So here I'm going to have QI'RA have a presence in the story. However, I'm going to save her for the third act, which would inevitably lead into a third film. MAUL. Okay, fine. If it was up to me, Darth Maul is something that should stay completely away from films. He is one of the worst characters ever from a film sense, as he is kind of the perfect metaphor for the prequels. All flash, no substance. And before you guys go, but he was great in the Clone Wars and Rebels. Yeah, I'm aware. Maul's arc in those stories is absolutely brilliant, but that's where it should be kept. It makes no sense if they're setting up a Kenobi movie or show with him in it, because in Rebels, it's very clear that this is the first time the two have met in years, and we've seen the ultimate outcome, so unless they're going to scrap the confrontation from canon, he really shouldn't be here. And although maybe it does make sense to erase some things, because in Season 1 Leia shows up and she's basically an adult. However, at the end of Season 3 and the episode Maul shows up, they show Luke, who's got to be no older than 10 years old, so the timelines don't exactly sync up. But really, I'm just going to have him be here, but I'm going to try and use him as sparingly as possible, because he simply shouldn't. Villains. Crimson Dawn. As I said before, QI'RA's influence will be felt through the story, and the main way of doing this is through Crimson Dawn. And here I'd plant the seeds of a criminal war between the HUTT cartel and Crimson Dawn, with the Empire sort of awkwardly stuck in the middle of this whole ordeal. Han becoming a thorn in Dawn's side, causing QI'RA to eventually come after him, giving him a warning which will of course rub off onto him due to him still having feelings for her. This of course would lead to Han to be wrestling with his feelings and of course becoming unstable, leading to a loss in the trust of JABBA. Main villain. So, the new villain for this story will be a member of Crimson Dawn, and to be precise, a Mandalorian. Now, this is where Boba Fett will become more integral to the story, as of course, this Mandalorian will be on more of an assassination mission due to Boba not being a real Mandalorian, and due to the large acquired bounty placed on his head by the Empire. And through this, the bounty soon becomes Han and Chewie. The Empire. So of course the Empire is out for Han after he made the Kessel Run, but more particularly the Falcon, as they can't really identify who was flying it, and they have tried to become more involved in stopping this crime war, as heists on Imperial settlements have become more frequent. But their focus has more so been on Crimson Dawn, as Han was working on behalf of them during the Kessel operation, and now having ditched them for the Hutts, Crimson Dawn has been blamed and suffered the consequences for Han's heist, and a certain someone has been deployed by the Emperor to deal with this. So with all of these pieces in play, let's get to an actual story for Solo 2, a Star Wars story. And before we start, guys, please excuse some of my bad impression work. I'm not going to be doing a Han Solo impression, I'm just going to be going with my normal voice, but some other characters might need one. We are of course in space as we see the camera pans down, as we see the Falcon exit hyperspace. Han and Chewie look in front of them to see Tatooine, a large golden planet. Not exactly what I had in mind. Yeah, I feel sorry for you, bud. Betcha it's gonna be real hot down there. We're in this deep now. They head down to Tatooine and dock at Mos Eisley, getting out, the heat beating down on them as they head into, you guessed it, the Mos Eisley Cantina. Taking a seat at the bar, the place bustling with activity, he and Chewie begin asking around for a gangster and where to find him, as they are laughed at by other patrons before crossing paths with an old man with a cloak over his head. The one you are looking for is far, but I can guide you. Thank you. Where is he? Beyond the Dune Sea, but it will require payment. Well, we don't have that much, sir. Well, what are you willing to do for it, pretty boy? An old ugly man uncloaking, laughing at Han, before Han pulls out a blaster and points it at him. Go ahead, boy. You ain't got killer in those lovely blue eyes you got. Oh yeah? Tell that to Tobias Beckett. The bar goes silent. Han notices the silence as his eyes shift around.
You killed Beckett?
A large Dothmerian stands beside him. Well, no, I mean, it was, I did pull the trigger, but it was self-defense? Yes? Chewie backs up Han. Alright, Chewie. Let's get out of here. They head out onto the streets. What a freak show. They get back to their Falcon's hangar bay and there is a figure smoking by the side of the hangar. Han immediately pulling out his blaster. You've got a funny way of saying hello. Yeah, well, I like to take precautions. So, you killed Beckett? Yeah, what's it to you? You don't seem like the guy who'd do that. Sure it wasn't your Wookiee who did it? Easy, bud. I heard you was looking for a gangster. Yeah? You know him? Mm-hmm. Can you take us to him? How much you got? We've got 60,000. Chewie punches him. 600 credits? Okay. You got a deal. Give me 200 and I'll take you. They board the Falcon as the man introduces himself as Hodge and they take off, flying west of Mos Eisley over the sand seas of Tatooine, eventually spotting a large palace in the distance as they set down a few hundred yards from the great structure. They exit and give Hodge his money as he leads them to a back entrance where they are greeted to some Gamorrean guards who stop Han and Chewie, taking their weapons at the door. They don't take well to newcomers, says Hodge. They are led into a dark hallway, large droids and guards lining the sides, hearing a faint screaming coming from one of the corridors. Han and Chewie are led by Hodge down some stairs. Eventually, music becomes louder before they enter a large underground club. Creatures are dancing and having fun. Han and Chewie walk through the bar, getting a drink from a droid, and looking at the place both of them are trying to stay hidden before Hodge returns. He'll see you now. Han and Chewie walk through a corridor before reaching a giant curtain, pushing through it, before seeing a giant slug creature perched upon a large concrete platform.
Hakasa Donam child.
Han Solo, and this is Chewbacca.
Ah, the Wookie. Good night.
He comes in handy.
Ah, Uba kill Beckett.
Han nods.
Beshkava. Uba just Bookie. No bata bigata womprat.
Yeah, well, you'll find I'm full of surprises.
Oh ho ho ho. QI'RA. To Uba to unjistiatna vorantaken. Juba bo ama bigat no. Bestul one.
Look, just give us one chance. We're not gonna disappoint you.
She like beat Bookie. Confident. Nagula boy. She do shipment of ore. And Lonnie should smuggle past Bu Imperiolo. Nero Karabos. Beke Uba silba beat. Uba and Utasha Wookie with Siv large wama.
Great. Thank you,
Jabba.
Thank you, Jabba. Han and Chewie leave and head back to the Falcon, Hodge coming with them. Jabba told me to go with you guys. He doesn't trust new bloods. Han, Chewie and Hodge leave for Tatooine in the Falcon and head towards Karabos. We cut to a large ship arriving on Dothamir, and we see QI'RA step off it, heading into a large misty castle where we see a large throne. Welcome, QI'RA. We see MAUL in a chair and they discuss Beckett's betrayal, and it is relayed to MAUL that he was killed, MAUL revealing a new partner to QI'RA, a Mandalorian in black and gold armor by the name of Shah Sun. We cut to Karabos where we see a large group of Star Destroyers hovering outside the planet's atmosphere, the Falcon going through them before heading down to Karabos into the dark alleys of the city, finding a hangar bay. They set down and leave, Hodge taking them to a large underground casino, where we find a large multi-eyed alien, Tujo. Hodge bargains with him and he reveals to him a ton of stolen gold Imperial ore.
You want this? 50,000 credits.
Hodge is taken aback. Jabba didn't pay you already.
Jabba didn't give me shit. Now pay up or die.
Han quickly intervenes. 50,000! We've got it. It's all back on our ship. You can take it, but we're just gonna need to make an exchange. Tujo's men take the gold to the Falcon and load it on. Han tells Chewie and Hodge to get the ship ready. He hands Tujo a sack of credits. Tujo looking in and revealing a sack of dominoes, and when he looks up, Han has sprinted into the Falcon, sliding down into the gunner and blasting Tujo and his men as Chewie quickly kicks the Falcon into gear and they speed out of the hangar, Han demolishing everything aside as the Falcon zips away. However, as they exit the planet, they are caught in an Imperial tractor beam and receive a transmission. Corellian freighter YT492727ZED. Prepare to be boarded for a routine inspection. Han and Chewie freak out and the three are panicking when Han trips over a loose floorboard, of course revealing the opening. He laughs hysterically as they work quickly to dump the gold into the boards. They are taken into the Star Destroyer and boarded. The stormtroopers arrive and the Imperial officers interview the three, trying to get any information out of them. And none of them crack. The troopers searching every bit of the ship, and all they can find is one of Lando's old capes, but nothing of note. The three set off back to Tatooine. On their way back, Hodge finds where Han and Chewie's credits are, and he hides them in his pockets. They touch down on Tatooine and start to offload the gold. Then Hodge calls out to them. Impressive for your first time. Just unfortunate that Han blasts him square in the chest before Hodge can even finish. He was being super obvious, right? Han and Chewie enter into the palace with a large bag, arriving before Jabba.
Han Mabuki. Jabaso Beshba Hodge.
Chewie empties the bag and out falls Hodge's body, Han pulling a blaster on Jabba and a detonator. Everyone around Jabba pulls a gun back. Jabba, see this? Anyone shoots and I blow your precious cargo sky high.
Oh ho ho. Han, Uba brave. Bold. Uba would make 9 Urwan.
Jabba gestures for his men to lower their guns, and so does Han.
Come.
Jabba takes Han and Chewie to the top of the palace as they look over the Dune Sea. JABBA tells them he wants them to work for him, and they accept, calling them the finest of scum, and saying that any enemy of Crimson Dawn is a useful ally. We then get a montage of Han and Chewie pulling off heists and quickly rising up the ranks, showing them profiting greatly off their relationship with JABBA, and seeing Crimson Dawn getting increasingly annoyed by the emergence of this new smuggler and his Wookiee, QI'RA knowing who it is but not passing on the information. MAUL tells Shah to find them and kill them. JABBA decides to make Han an offer and asks him if he wants to go on a mission to Trandosha to pull a heist on an Imperial facility who is hoarding a large amount of Beskar. However, he is to be accompanied by a third person, revealing a bounty hunter in green armor.
Han, bit Bobanet, Busuest Murishani Bu Galaxy.
The three take off in the Falcon, Han trying to start conversations with him, however to no avail, before they arrive at Trandosha, going through their plan. Han will do the old Chewie as a prisoner routine, allowing for them to go in and retrieve a large amount of the Beskar, before they load it onto an Imperial transport. On their way out, Boba will invade in the Falcon and they will offload it. However, once they're in, their plan goes wrong as Crimson Dawn and Son Shah arrives, quickly coming after Han and Chewie, before getting on Imperial speeders while dragging a crate of Beskar as Son follows them, also pursued by a large amount of scout troopers on their bikes. They call for Boba Fett in the Falcon, who tries to lower over the forest but is unable to reach the two, before we see them going over water as Shah has left a trail of detonators, causing a chain reaction through the forest, taking out many of the Imperials before managing to blast the crate of Beskar as it sinks into the ocean depths. Boba tries to help Han and Chewie onto the Falcon with what little Beskar they have, and Boba is shot by Shah, Han also spotting Shah's Crimson Dawn insignia on his uniform. And soon after, a swarm of TIE fighters arrive and take pursuit of the Falcon. Chewie and Han take control of the Falcon, while Boba mans the gunners, as we see how much they have improved as a team. Boba of course proving extremely useful with the gunners, as they manage to break through the Imperial blockade over Trandosha, managing to maneuver the cannons and fly away. They communicate with JABBA and he is enraged at the two, saying that the only other place they can find this amount of Beskar is on Mandalore, where the Empire has a far greater presence. Han and Chewie are excited, quickly assuming that Boba will be able to get them to Mandalore without any mix-ups. However, he simply says, "I am no Mandalorian," revealing his face, which Han instantly recognizes as that of a clone trooper. We see that Shah makes contact with MAUL, telling them they are bound to make it to Mandalore, and that he is accompanied by the abomination that is Boba Fett. MAUL tells QI'RA to help Shah and meet them on Mandalore. Meanwhile, Han asks who the bounty hunter is, and Fett tells him that it is Shah's son, a traditional Mandalorian who Fett encountered in his younger years, and who worked together after the Purge. However, after finding out that Fett was not a traditional Mandalorian, turned on him after a job gone wrong, leaving Boba to fend for himself, leading to a small stint as an Imperial prisoner, which is when Boba learned never to trust anyone. Everyone gets that realization. What was yours? A girl? Chewie looks at Boba and nods. Boba uses Han's old Imperial uniform as they set course for Mandalore. However, then we cut to Mimban, where a battle rages on. We see a blockade of Star Destroyers outside the planet, and on the bridge, an Imperial soldier is commanding, "Drive the last attack! Destroy the main terminal! Seize the..." He starts to choke, his eyes going red before falling to the ground.
"Call off the attack. Retreat the troops and attack from the rear with air. Then send the artillery forward. Your adolescent impulsiveness will not cost us this victory, Admiral Jen."
"Lord Vader, the Emperor commands you make contact with him." We see Vader head into his large chamber, and then we see a hologram come up, towering over the kneeling Dark Lord. "Lord Vader." "Yes, my master. It has come to light that the HUTT cartel and Crimson Dawn are both mounting large assaults on our more valuable assets." "I am aware, my master." "There was a raid on the Beskar storage on Trandosha yesterday morning. A large supply was almost lost. We cannot hope to complete our ultimate weapon without it. You will go to Mandalore. We cannot afford to lose another ounce." "And what of the thieves?" "Do what you believe is necessary. As you wish." The transmission cuts out. We see QI'RA leave Dothamir and head to meet Shah, as we see the Falcon arrive on Mandalore. The Imperials are everywhere, as we see the Falcon fly through the sheltered cities, before arriving at a hangar bay, where the Imperials inspect it, Boba hiding his uniform under the floorboards along with Chewie, as they make their way into the city. Chewie stays on the Falcon as he is too obvious. Han stealing an officer's uniform, and he and Boba go deep into the heart of the Imperial Foundry. However, they have been followed by Shah and QI'RA who confront them. Boba and Shah begin to fight. However, QI'RA flees deeper into the vaults as Han chases her. Boba and Shah's fight becomes more intense, and eventually they end up in a smelting facility. Troopers coming to the area. Han finally tracks down QI'RA, who begins to shoot at him. He corners her and pleads with her, but she escapes. They eventually end up finding the supply of Beskar, loaded in crates for an easy steal. We see Boba and Shah's fight continue, before FETT escapes as stormtroopers arrive, and Shah fights off 5 troopers by himself. As Boba comes to Han's aid, Han is still with QI'RA when the doors to the storage vault close, and VADER is at the entrance. Han radios to Boba, who arrives and blows the doors off the storage, and the 3 start blasting VADER, eventually beating him down, Boba using his rope to bring crates of Beskar crashing down onto the Dark Lord. And the 3 begin to run out of the room as Boba witnesses VADER lifting up the crates, and they sprint out, holding 3 crates of Beskar as QI'RA runs off in another direction. Before they exit the building, they are confronted by Shah. However, Chewie arrives and blasts the area as they hijack a cruiser. We see Han and Boba in a ship following Chewie and the Falcon, while getting chased by Shah using his jetpack, getting a frantic chase through the sheltered city. We also see QI'RA running down a hallway before being confronted by VADER. Shah arrives on the cruiser and he and Boba have a fight. Han jumps on the Falcon and they try to transfer the remaining Beskar on board as the Imperials are after them. Han and Chewie working to get the crates out and eventually loading them onto the Falcon. As they destroy the transport, Shah then reaches onto the Falcon and he ties himself to it, getting closer and closer before the Falcon exits Mandalore, before Boba punches the ship into hyperspace as Shah is disintegrated by the ship's hyperdrive. They arrive back on Tatooine and offload the shipment. Not bad, Solo. Thanks. JABBA welcomes the two and we see Han and Chewie set off onto Mos Eisley, who are now respected and no longer made a joke of. Now, here if you want to have a reference to Luke Skywalker or a little Easter egg you can, but I'd probably advise against it. But then we see QI'RA at the end in an Imperial uniform, as she heads an Imperial invasion to Dathomir. So that was my pitch for what could happen in Solo 2. What did you guys think about it? And yes, I know this leads into a third film, but I think that the ground covered in Solo left room for further adventures, and in my case, it could be a trilogy. But I mean, unless there's a strange spike in demand 20 years down the track, it's probably not going to happen. So tell me if you're interested to see a part 3 to this. And also, I'm always looking to do more movie scripts and fan fictions in the future, so please make sure you let me know what you'd like to see in the future. So please make sure you like, share, and subscribe to the Young Cynics. Chewie, take us out.